I thought I would just maybe focus my remarks a little bit more on practical things that I think you might be able to take away from things that have happened to me and aspects of my personal journey, which I think maybe are lessons that you might learn, or key things you could take away that I think would apply to pretty much everybody. So the first of those, I would say, is to get active. And if you're interested in party political campaigning, it's okay, it will stop eventually. If you're active in party political campaigning, to get campaigning. I was born, very luckily, in what I always describe as a Labour family. So in my family, my granddad and my dad were very active in Labour politics. So pretty much from birth, that was the political environment that I was being raised in. So for me as a child, it sounds really sad, I know, but to go leafleting with my dad in particular, or to go door knocking whilst he asked people to vote Labour, and I smiled very nicely at them hoping that they would do so, was a normal part of my life. Now obviously that is not a normal part of most people's lives, but the principle of being involved, if you care about something, of taking a step to say, okay, I'm going to give up an evening a week, I'm going to give up a little bit of my weekend once every couple of weeks, is a really important principle, because this is how you learn what you really believe and what putting into practice what you believe actually looks like. So there's all the stuff that you will see about politics on the news. You'll see politicians having a ding-dong with each other across the dispatch box. It's a great soundtrack. It's better than the bell, I have to say. So you'll see politicians having a ding-dong with each other across the dispatch box. You'll see people on Question Time having a big old row about the hot political issue of the day or of the week. But the business end of politics, the way that you actually go out, you talk to people who live in our country and you try and persuade them that you have the answers or a part of the answers to the problems that they are facing, that is not particularly glamorous. It doesn't get you on the telly, but it is how you make change happen. So that is the power of knocking on doors every week and actually just talking to people about what the issues are that are facing them. It's about taking out a petition and collecting signatures for that petition, whatever it might be on whichever political issue it might affect. That could be taking out a local issues survey and going into an area that you excuse me, that you don't know very well, and saying to people, tell me what the issues are, tell me what it is that really irritates you about your life, and what is the one thing you want to change about the local area in which people live. And the reason why that's so important, apart from the fact that it's a really great leveller for how you understand, conceptualise, believe in, think about politics, it also actually teaches you a very fundamental truth, which has been really important to me as an ethnic minority and as a religious minority MP. The truth it teaches you is that as different as people are, as much as they might be of a different race group, a religious group or whatever, people are fundamentally the same. Their concerns are usually, can I get a job? Can I hold on to my job? Can I pay my mortgage? Can I keep a roof over my family's head? Can I put food on my family's table? Will my child get into the good local school, or will they miss out and go to the failing comprehensive? Will my child do well at that school? Will they be taught by a good qualified teacher who will believe in them as much as I, their parent, would believe in them? Will they have the opportunity to go to university? It doesn't matter if you're black, Asian, white, something else. It doesn't matter whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or you don't believe in God. Frankly, you don't believe he exists. 99.9% of the people I represent want those things from their lives. And that's a really great leveller for teaching you that so often in our debate, particularly in minority communities, we think about how we're different. Actually, for the things that really affect us in our daily lives, we're pretty much the same. So getting active, getting campaigning, and remembering that the non-glamorous bit, so the legwork of leafleting, the legwork of door knocking, the legwork of, voter canvassing by phone. In the Labour Party, I always say the best job in the Labour Party is the person who has to sit there and put double-sided sticky tape on the back of Vote Labour posters, which we then go out and ask people to stick up in their windows. It's kind of a rite of passage, and you've got to see it in that way. So that is exactly what I've spent most of my life doing. And actually, when I'm in a campaign room and I might be stressed because, I'm worried about whether we've done enough work or not, my staff will usually say, Shabana, here's a bunch of Vote Labour posters, just go stick stick some sticky back tape on them and stop bothering us while we do all the, voter count. So all of those tasks, they are a really important cog in the wheel. And if you want to truly understand what it is to run a campaign, to how to win a campaign, how to make change in your community, those are the things actually that you should be getting involved in and doing. So get yourself active. If you believe in politics, if you want to be engaged in politics, join a political party. I would like you to join mine, but I accept that you may make a different choice. Whatever choice you make sure it's in line with your values, and then test that choice by getting out there and campaigning for that party, watching what the activists of that that party are like when they are campaigning in their communities, so you can really see whether you agree with them or not. Excuse me. The second point, this is about self-confidence. This is about the ability to be confident and then to fake self-confidence. So lots of times you will see people, politicians and others, who will try and speak to a room, and you will think, my God, this person really knows what they're talking about. They are the expert on whatever it is that, whatever topic it is that they are engaging in. And what you won't always realise is that often those people who may come across as extremely confident are doing what we call faking self-confidence. So they know how to stand in a room, how to engage with people, how to look in their eyes and make that people believe that they truly are the world's biggest expert on that area, that they know exactly what they're talking about, and sometimes they don't. And it's knowing that actually not everybody has all of the answers, even the people who proclaim to be in positions of authority. So, and this is a problem we often see with women. So lots of times some of my male colleagues will not think twice about picking up, I don't know, Fiji's been in the news recently, so somebody might just know 2 things about Fiji and will get up and make a speech about Fiji. Most women, however, will hesitate before they take that step because they think, I don't know anything about Fiji, I can just about spell it and that's about it. So they will think, I'm not really qualified to get up and speak about it, not realising that the man before them who's just given a 10-minute speech on Fiji has gone off the basis of the 2 things that he knows about Fiji. So it's about knowing and understanding that projecting confidence is as important a part of being a political leader, taking authority or ownership of an issue, as actually having that confidence and that full knowledge, and that you don't have to have 100% full expert knowledge, a degree in something, in order to be able to speak to what you think and what you feel. And the other point about self-confidence is also, politics, I always say to people, politics is a really brutal and a very bruising business. And the reason why it's brutal and the reason why it's bruising is because the things that happen in politics affect our lives. They can change our whole country. They can change what it is our country stands for. They can change your prospects of having good or bad living standards, just through one vote. We've just been voting on subsidies for green energy. Those who are in the climate change lobby will think that today something very bad has happened because the subsidies haven't gone in the way that they wanted, and that is going to have a profound impact in our country and our capacity to move from non-renewable energy to renewable energy. That is a big deal. It's about how we are going to be able to switch the lights on in our rooms in 20 years' time. So because the stakes are high in politics, it means that it can be very bruising. It's very competitive. Lots of people who are very passionate about what they believe in want to be involved. So you have to have enough belief in yourself, enough belief in your own views and your ability to put those views across to be able to stand up to that. And I always tell people, exactly a year before I got selected as the Labour Party candidate for Birmingham Ladywood constituency, and I was on my way to becoming a Labour MP, I failed to get elected as the ethnic minority rep for Birmingham Young Labour. And so that just shows that, you are always in competition against other people. So the people that get to the top are not the ones that have had success all the way through and who've always had positions of responsibility. Sometimes you have to accept that in this road there are challenges and competition that you also have to overcome. The third lesson I would say you should take away from my own journey is about risk-taking. So I was 26 years old. I was working as a barrister in London. My family were in Birmingham. I would get the train down on a Monday morning. I would work the week in London. Friday night I'd be on the Virgin train home. Saturday and Sunday I was at home in Birmingham and then back again. That was my life. I was a professional indemnity specialist. I was dealing with high-value cases. I enjoyed my career. And although in my head I had always thought that at some point I would quite like to be an MP, possibly, maybe, it was never something I planned. It was never something I actually sat down and thought about what I might do. But I had decided to take a career break because I sort of woke up one day and thought, oh my God, all my friends are lawyers, this is not a good thing. I wanted to do some volunteer teaching, so I decided I was going to take 6 months out of my job. They were very good to me. They said they'd hold my job open for me, and I was going to go back home to Birmingham. I was going to do some volunteer teaching and maybe go abroad and do some teaching too. I'm back home in Birmingham, and the Labour Party announces that they will be selecting their candidate for Ladywood constituency. Initially, I dismissed it because I thought to myself, I'm too young. So mostly everybody, and this is exactly what happened, 90% of the members, when I first went to say to them, vote for me, said, you're too young, Shabana. And I couldn't say, don't think that, because it's what I thought of myself when I first decided to run for it. So I thought, I'm not going to do it. I'm 26 years old. They're going to laugh at me. So I didn't think about it again. But a few months later, the process hadn't yet kicked off. I was watching the news, and there was an MP on there who was commenting on a political issue in their own constituency. And I was watching this MP and I was thinking, in 20 years' time, I could be watching the MP for Ladywood, who will not be me if I don't run, and I would be thinking that could have been me. And I knew myself well enough to know that living with regret, knowing that I could have gone for something and been something and not doing it, was going to really irritate me. And I would not be happy with myself knowing that I had let an opportunity go. So I decided that living with regret is not a good thing. I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to run for selection. And it was a big risk because I had to phone up my boss and I had to say, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to come back in September as agreed. And she said, fine, we really like you, Shabana, but obviously we can't hold your job open. We're going to have to now recruit and hire your replacement. And if when you're done and you lose, as you say you will, then you'll have to maybe see if we're still, looking for somebody else or find another job. And I thought to myself, well, that's obviously not good. I don't want to be unemployed, but I have a good degree, I have a good career up to now, I've got good experience behind me, and I figured that if I had to, go through an interview process and find another job, I would have enough interesting things in that interview to say about my experiences running for selection that a future employer might just say, oh, do you know what, we might just give her a chance. So I sort of put that bit to bed, and I just decided, right, I'm actually now going to be unemployed and seeking selection as a Labour candidate, but I'm going to go for it. And when I committed myself to going for it, I didn't do it in some half-hearted, you know what, I'm going to do it, but I think I'm going to lose sort of way. Once I was committed, once I had risked my career and put everything on the line, I did it 100%. I left no stone unturned. There were 260 odd members who had a vote in my selection, and I met every single one of them, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but at least 5 times. I phoned them, I leafleted them, I wrote to them, I sent them nice cards, I knew everything about their lives. To this day, I can rehearse off the top of my head the full names, the middle names, the addresses, the names of children, the phone numbers of the vast majority of my members because of my selection process. Because once I was committed to it, I was not going to do it in any half-hearted way, and ultimately that paid off. And that tells me, and what it should tell you, is that sometimes politics and a career in politics is about being in the right place at the right time, but the trick is to know that you're in the right place at the right time. So I knew that being a small heath girl from Birmingham with a constituency in which I went to school, representing the people that I grew up with, was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and if I let it go, it would probably never come again. And that's why I ran for it, and that's how I came to win. And that's why, some people go 30 years trying to seek selection, and I went from, having never run for selection before, having never held elected office before, to being a member of Parliament, getting selected on my first attempt at trying and becoming a member of Parliament. So you should sometimes take risks, calculated risks that you've thought about and discussed with your family. But sometimes politics is about taking risks, and it's about commitment and knowing when you're in the right place at the right time. The fourth lesson is, I'm not sure how exactly to phrase it, but I think it's something like embracing and owning your own identity. I hope that some of you might instinctively know what I mean when I say that, because I'm not sure I'm going to explain it brilliantly well. If you are not confident about who and what you are, you're not going to inspire confidence in other people. When I rocked up to my Ladywood members, I was telling them to look at a 26-year-old woman, so young woman, brown face, Muslim, okay? And I was telling them to look at me as a potential member of Parliament. So that's not what normally members of parliament look like, okay? So they were being asked to change their perceptions of what an MP actually is. Now in my patch, they'd had Claire Short before, so they were quite used to being represented by a woman. For them, it wasn't a big deal that a woman is saying, I want to be your MP, and they weren't thinking, this is a man's job, this is something that only a man can do. But they were probably thinking, she's really young, you know, what life has she actually seen? And, you know, she's Asian, she's a Muslim, you know, how's she going to handle that? And that's a legitimate thing for them to think, because I was asking them to change their perception of how things are done in our country. And I don't think I could have made a pitch to them. I don't think I could have got them to believe in me if I did not believe in myself. So this is about being unashamed of who you are, and that doesn't come from sort of, you know, just, it's not an aggressive thing, and it's not something where you're in someone's face with all the ways in which you're different. It's actually just about inner belief and being completely comfortable with your views and never feeling under pressure because your religion teaches you one thing and somebody who you're talking to, trying to persuade them to vote for you, believes something different. And so I can put it no better than owning your personal identity. If you take ownership of it, you will be unafraid of it yourself, you'll be unashamed of it, but you will inspire confidence from other people for it as well, because they will see somebody who is at peace with themselves, who is able to articulate what they believe in, who is passionate about who they are, and they will then think that person can be passionate for my rights too. And I think that's quite an important thing, which if you're seeking political office and you're a minority, like myself and like many in the room, that we try and establish. And then the last thing, which again is sort of lesson from my own journey, you will face negativity. So I said earlier on, politics is a brutal and bruising business because there's a lot of competition and the stakes are high. It also engenders, apart from competition, a lot of negativity. And that can be in two forms. So, you know, I'm very lucky actually. I haven't faced a huge amount of racism, if I'm completely honest. Nothing that's ever affected me in any way, shape or form in terms of overt racism. I don't know what gets said behind my back, obviously. But I did face a little, from a very, very, very small minority, a little bit of negativity from within my own community. So people, my background, my religion, my race, who were unused to the idea of a woman, you know, being at the front of a room, who are unused to the idea of a woman being a representative. And trying to change that is a challenge because I'm from that community myself. I don't want to say you're all wrong and just slam the door and not listen to people. I would like people to come on my journey with me and to change their perspective of how we operate and how we function as a community through their experience of having a female representative. But there is no getting away from the fact that when people are being really negative with you, and when you're a woman, it's very easy. The default position of anybody that wants to be negative about you is to assassinate your character. So to say bad things about you, you know, who you are and what you do in your private life. It's a very easy thing for people to make things up about. And when it happens to you the first time, as someone seeking elected office, I won't pretend to you that it's easy. It's actually really quite difficult. And the first time it happened to me, when some of my opponents started to tell lies about me, because if you're a single Muslim woman, it's quite easy to have people tell lies about you. It did really affect me, but I had enough presence of mind to think, this is politics, and I'm going to let it affect me, but for like half an hour. And after this half an hour, this is not going to bother me anymore. So I had to make a choice. I was going to be upset for literally 1.5 hours of my life. That was the end. And after that, I would never, ever let somebody make me feel unconfident about myself just because they think it's easy to tell lies. And so after that half hour where I was genuinely quite upset and freaked out and, you know, saying, oh my God, and now my mum's upset and everything's bad, I let all of that out. And then I thought to myself, I am going to be relentlessly positive. So the only way to kill that kind of negativity is to be relentlessly positive. And the great thing about being a woman, I often see in the Asian community where things are being said about people, people like to cover up. They don't like to cause embarrassment to somebody's face. But I thought, well, this is rubbish. I'm not going to go along with that. So the next official function that I did, I got up and I started talking about the things that people were saying about me. And the faces of the men in the room were a complete picture, because they were like, oh my God, they didn't know where to look. And some of them were people that were, perpetrating these rumours. So I thought, I am going to call you out publicly about the lies you're telling, and I'm going to ask you a question, which is, if this was your daughter or your sister or your wife, would you tolerate it back? I'm not going to tolerate it. I know you won't tolerate it. Stop it. It ended up being actually my best campaigning tool, but it taught me a really important thing about life, which is you have to tackle things head on. Don't let people hide behind the things they say. Politics is about putting your head above the parapet. That means taking abuse sometimes. But if people can dish things out, then they had better be confident enough to take it when it comes back to them as well. And you should be unafraid to do that back to the people who do it to you. But also, if you're polite to people, if you are always positive, if you say with respect, uncle, brother, sir, I disagree, and this is why, with what face can they, particularly in a public environment, go on and keep on slamming you? They will ultimately have to engage in political discourse in a way that is respectful, even if they still ultimately disagree. And so the only way to face down that kind of negativity is to first tackle it head on, and secondly, relentless positivity, relentless politeness, and watch them do whatever they have to do straight back at you publicly and to your face. It's the only way, I think, to face it down. So yeah, those are my lessons. Those are my 5 key things. Ultimately, you should be unafraid and unashamed of who you are. Politics is at its best when it is for the people and is genuinely reflective of the people that it seeks to represent. And one of the first things that after I got elected, a reporter from the Muslim News was talking to me about sort of perspectives as one of the first Muslim women to be elected to Parliament. And I was talking, so she was asking me questions, and a lot of what I was saying was about my constituency. So she was getting a little bit irritated with me. She said, oh, well, you just keep talking about your constituency, and I want to talk to you about the fact that you're a Muslim. And I was trying to say, well, I am, of course, a Muslim. That is really important to me, but I represent lots of non-Muslims, so I've got to obviously engage with people across the board. I said, well, why am I interviewing you then? I'm only interviewing you because you're a Muslim MP, so I'm interested. I write for the Muslim News. If you're saying it's about your constituency, which has Muslims and non-Muslims, why should I care what you have to say? And I said to her, you shouldn't care if you don't want to. I can't make you care about what I say or not. Why it matters is because if I can do it, it means so can you. So my role here is not to be an exemplar or a scholar or, some sort of pseudo-religious leader. My role is to show the young men and women here in this room, if I can take this journey and if I can succeed on my own terms, in my own way, then you can too. There is nothing special or different about me. There is nothing special or different about my journey. It is a journey that all of you can take. And if there is one thing that I think is my responsibility as an ethnic minority and religious minority MP, it is to say that the door that Keith and Diane and Paul and Bernie opened when they got elected in 1987 is a door that my generation has to destroy so it doesn't exist for anybody. Thank you very much.